So talk to me about what is a paleo diet and the history too. I'd love to know the history of it.
Well, so starting with the history, Dr. Lauren Cordain was the inventor of the diet, though he worked with several other well-respected researchers, such as Dr. Boyd Eaton. They were pure scientists. Dr. Cordain was a professor at CSU University, so Colorado State University. He was an athlete and just said, I want to figure out what's the optimal diet to help my sport, and spent years just reading all the research on diet. And after reading huge amounts of research, he basically just said, this is what it points at. And that's what was very appealing to me. I've seen a lot of people come into the nutrition world with a bias, and then they look to prove their bias in the research. He just said, what does the science say? And has always been that sort of person, and he's changed his opinion when science comes out that contradicts what we've said in the past. We never shy away from that. So for me, the paleo diet is just simply a body of science. How we define it to people, it is eating the way our bodies were designed to eat, and that is actually quite simple. It's vegetables, fruits, lean meats, fish, eggs, and nuts and seeds sparingly. It's nothing dramatic or unusual. I mean, quite frequently I tell people that, and they go, well, that's what I was taught in kindergarten. You go, right.
Right, yeah. One of the things that I really follow, I try to, it's being intuitive, listening to the body, and just introducing these foods. And I usually eat the same things all the time. Is that actually a good thing to eat the same foods that have been working for each one of us?
I think it's really important to identify foods that don't work for you. All of us have foods that we don't react well to.
Yeah.
In terms of, you want to have your go-to foods, but it's also very important to have a lot of variety. So to give you an example, we've been talking with a researcher, Dr. London, who's studying one of the last remaining true hunter-gatherer societies in the world, which is down in the Amazon in South America. And he pointed out at one point to me, typical North American eats about 7 to 8 different fruit varieties. This hunter-gatherer society had over 90 different fruits that they ate. And they would cycle through. So obviously in the Amazon, it's warm all year round.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be fruits available, and they tended to eat fruits seasonally. There were just certain times a year, even though you could eat the fruit all year round, there were certain times of year when the fruit just for them tasted right, and they would eat those particular fruits, but they would cycle through the season.
My other question for you is about the difference between the paleo diet and the other diets out there, Mediterranean diets and so many others that we cannot even get started with. What is the main difference?
It depends on the diet. There are, and look, I will tell you, the paleo diet frequently gets accused of being a fad diet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there is a paleo diet, a version of the paleo diet that's gotten quite popular, which is a fad version. And we're really trying to get the message out there that is not a healthy diet, and it's not representative of the paleo diet, and get it back to the science. You know, some diets are more fad-like, some are very based on science. The Mediterranean diet has a lot of science behind it, and I think it has a lot of really good notions behind it. We don't back everything that it says, but there's a lot of research on it that, as a scientist, I'd say that's really good science. The biggest difference between the paleo diet and other diets is right now there's a very large focus on macronutrient ratios. So should a diet be high carbohydrate, low carbohydrate? Should it be high fat, low fat? Should it be high protein or low protein? Yeah. And I think we're getting off track thinking that way. I can build a high carbohydrate diet for you that's pretty healthy, that's based mostly on fruits and vegetables. I can build a high carbohydrate diet for you that's built on Skittles, and it has the same ratio. So you can't say a high carbohydrate diet or a low carbohydrate diet is necessarily healthy or unhealthy. The other extreme, there's a lot of people who are very big proponents of the keto diet, but you see them avoid any fruits and vegetables and eat sticks of butter every day, which is just not healthy. So the paleo diet, we're much more focused on the macronutrient ratio doesn't matter. It's you should eat the foods that are healthy for you and avoid the foods that are unhealthy.
What does it look like to live a good life?
How would I define this? For me, defining a good life, I hate to go down a stereotypical analogy, but I'm going to use an analogy because, again, I have an athletic background, and I have this discussion with athletes frequently that when you line up on the start line, you have no idea how that event's going to go. So I'm a bike racer, so I have no idea how that race is going to go. I might be there to win it. I might be there just to have some fun, but you don't know what's going to happen. You could crash. You could have the best race of your life. You could do something absolutely amazing that amounts to nothing. So what I learned as a racer is the result sheet really doesn't tell very much. I don't use the results sheet as a metric of whether it was a good race or not. It's more, I go into a race and say, I want to do something, whether it's to break away, whether it's to go for the sprint, whether it's to help out a teammate. I don't want to just sit in and avoid taking risks. I want to go in the race, have some fun, push my limits, try something. It might work, it might fail. That's actually not all that important as long as I feel I did something. And the measure of the race is to look back and say, that was an exciting race where something really fun happened, where I pushed my limits. That to me is the measure of a good race. So I would look at life the same way. I don't want to avoid it. I don't want to play it safe. I want to do something fun. I want to do something exciting. I want to help. I want to make a contribution. And I don't know what the scorecard's going to be at the end of it. But as long as I'm doing something along the way.